The first job of the organization is exactly what we've been telling them. What are your goals and priorities? What is it? What problems do you have? Also, coaches can help you discern those. So if you really want to dig deep under the surface, understand what's going on in your organization, coaches can help do that exploratory discovery work. I would say recognize the purpose of coaching. Understand what kind of intervention you're actually using. What does coaching do? What does it not do? And is that the best way to solve your problem?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Leading Below the Surface podcast. I'm your host, LaTonya Wilkins, award-winning author and executive coach. Today, I am joined by a guest that I think everybody will really enjoy. We are going to be talking about the topic of coaching in organizations. And I've been wanting to explore this topic for so long. And so I was really, I saw it as a sign, and I was really elated when Katherine Lord and I crossed paths. So who is Katherine Lord? Well, Katherine Lord actually runs coaching in organizations, or is part of that team, a big part of that team for the International Coaching Federation. I'm so excited to have her with us today. So if you are someone who is thinking about coaching in organizations, how to use coaching to navigate change at scale, how to use coaching to navigate AI transformations, all of this stuff, whether coaching works, how do you sell it to your boss? We're going to be talking about all this stuff. If you are a coach and you want to get into organizations, this is also for you. We're going to talk a little bit about that, what organizations are looking for. Folks, I will tell you, I've learned so much about coaching in organizations just in the last couple months about how it works. We've also had some folks join Coaching Below the Surface who are organizational coaches. And so there's just so much there's so many myths and there's so many things that you may not understand. If you're a leader, this is also something that you will want to understand so you could bring this into your organization. So Katherine, just a little bit about yourself. What did I miss? I did miss that you're just an all around fun person. So I will mention that. And I think, did you mention slip and slides last time we talked?
Probably.
Something going on in the backyard.
Oh, yeah. Yes. There's often, I have small children, so there's any number of things going on in the backyard.
Yeah, I remember there was some sort of backyard festival, and I'm like, gosh, I wish I could be there. I mean, I wish I got invited to these adult things, but I don't know if that would work well with a slip and slide for us.
I think we would be more hesitant than the children that I've witnessed doing it. It hurts. Things hurt more now, and that's probably, that's an understatement. But you are more than welcome anytime you'd like to join the festivities at my house.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking I was in community with one of my Coaching Below the Surface groups, and we were talking about what our favorite moments of summer. And one of the things that I remember when I was a child, and maybe we could kind of get into this, have a little fun with this, but I remember when the neighborhood, people in the neighborhood would break the fire hydrants, and we would just run through it. That was just and I never see that anymore. When
I think of the pictures, I think of it more as maybe the 50s or the 60s. You are not that old. but urban area. I live in DC now. I grew up in Atlanta, and I crave that. I wish somebody would have a hose in the middle of the street for a number of reasons to spray down things here in DC. But the just acceptance of water, and we all come in community and just take advantage of something together. That is a fun scene to think about.
Yeah, it's so fun to think about. So what got you into this field and coach? Are you a coach in coaching in organizations?
I'm a baby coach. Not that I coach babies, although that is part of my role as a mom. I am on my coach journey, as we say. We'll sort of start with the end in mind here of what I do now and the windy road that I took to get here, but I'm on my way to get my ACC. I'm working through those 100 hours, and hopefully will sit for my ACC exam I don't just get a pass because I work at ICF, sadly, but I do have to take the exam, which I will hopefully in the fall. So I am on that path. But then for ICF, I really work on behalf of coaches and organizations. And we can talk more about my role in a minute. But I got here from a road that combined business, community development, and I say holistic well-being support. And I say that because I'm a yoga teacher. I have my master's in social work. I worked in clinical social work for a couple of years, generally into the nutrition well-being world. So I care about people individually. I care about people as a community. And I want businesses to take care of said people and contribute to the global community in search of well-being and happiness.
Your interest in well-being kind of opened the door of coaching for you. I call that Coach Curious. I love the baby coach, but I always say Coach Curious. And I would have thought you would be exempted from those exams. I was going to ask you for some favors, but I guess not.
I still got favors that I could give, but I can't pass anyone on an exam. I know the kind people who do, grade them. My colleagues. But I love the idea of Coach Curious, and I think that will be a theme in our conversation because it lends to how organizations think of themselves, because organizations as an entity can also be coach curious, or coaching mindset curious, perhaps. But the transition for me, particularly from social work into coaching, has been profound. I wanted to be in a helping profession. When I got my master's in social work, I did 2 clinical internships, but then also did this macro sort of community building focus as well. And I look back on that education, which was phenomenal. I think social work programs are one of those things, kind of like law school, kind of like public policy. You could just go and get a master's in social work and just be a better person. Just go. Not that you have to be a social worker, but if you go and get that kind of education, it changes how you walk on the planet. From a clinical perspective, social work is more geared toward pathology. So you're looking for a diagnosis. You're saying, oh, this person has this. Are there interventions, which not necessarily are pharmaceutical, but are there different interventions to address this challenge this person is experiencing? The way that coaching approaches life takes that pathological piece away. Both are incredibly important. I'm a proud digester of medication that helps me show up in the world the way I want to. And the questions asked in the coaching setting, I think, are so valuable, so much so that I believe I would have been a different social work clinician had I had my coach training first. And I say that because with my coaching experience now, my coaching education, I learned how to ask questions.
Yeah, I love that because you're saying this is pathology. There's a place for that in medications. But I remember one of the things we used to always talk about was therapy's backwards, coaching's forward. So therapy, you're curing your past, and coaching, you're moving forward. And there are a lot of coaches who are social workers or they're into wellness. And I think there's just so many different types of coaches. But it really comes back to people's lives and being able to be relational. And I think we sometimes miss that. How do we be relational? What is that? And so let's talk a little bit about coaching in orgs. And so there's a story that I could start with because I'd love to hear your reaction. So, when we just basically sign a contract for multiple, coaching multiple people with an organization. And what's really interesting is a couple of these people have never had any type of leadership development, but the leader chose to coach, which was actually very surprising to me. But I am starting to see, my background is leadership development in corporate. And it was very much like, you have to have this ROI. It has to be, you have to run all these charts and graphs and show us exactly what this is going to get us. But I kind of see that loosening up a bit and people starting to see every leader might be different in how they respond to leadership development, or even letting the leader kind of choose what they want. There's a couple of folks that are in one of our Coaching Below the Surface program, and they coach off the side of their desk. It's kind of like we're going to talk about today. And they're always busy, and it's never really about just ROI. It's about human stuff. day-to-day stuff that they're coaching on, and the org has bought into this. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's heartening to hear, actually. And congratulations on getting into that organization and to whomever that organization is, because that is, of course, a progressive, I think, very valuable approach to leadership development. When I think about the state of coaching in organizations today, first of all, some level of coaching has probably been happening forever. Somebody in a company is good at asking questions and being curious and holding empathy, and that person probably did really well. And then over time, we've learned to formalize that. It's called coaching. This is distinct from mentoring or managing or dictating. Organizations fall on our bell curve, some that are understanding the mosaic of, to use sort of a pathological word, like intervention or initiative to support their people. Leadership and development programs, mentoring programs, maybe coaching is in that mix. Fully embedded, they're doing great. And then as you move along the curve, we see organizations who are using it in sort of an ad hoc way of, oh, we hear this coaching thing is great. Let's use it. Let's do this one-on-one thing for a while. Maybe we do a little team coaching, little group coaching. But it's still a bit fragmented. And then you have folks who think coaching is still like the repercussion of being bad, that this is something that's on somebody's way out, that they might get coached, but probably they're going to be let go. At every stage on this curve, from the fully embedded to nothing's happening, some organizations get it. They're moving toward a coaching culture. They're understanding the impact of coaching and where it can play well. But oftentimes, and this is frustrating to me, oftentimes we are still having conversations about those metrics that you're describing of, we need ROI, we need hard numbers. We don't care if just generally employees seem happy. We need to see that bottom line go up and to the right. And I'm all for that as well. Such a strong emphasis on ROI ignores so much of the ROE, both return on experience and return on expectation.
Ooh, I want to hear about that. So what is ROE?
So ROE in a like traditional standpoint. So when we look at ROI, we're looking at return on investment. So I'm putting X amount of dollars in, I get a return on that, hopefully more than what I put in. And that's what most people want to see. So dollars to dollars. When you look at ROE from return on expectation, we're starting to play with qualitative data. We're trying to say, my expectation is that if I implement coaching at whatever level, that our employee engagement will go up. Well, lots of statisticians can apply numbers and metrics to what engagement looks like. But in the end, it's a subjective feeling. Do I feel engaged at my work or not? Now, there might be some outcomes that would indicate I am engaged. I do my work on time. I show up for meetings. I'm generally happy on calls, that kind of thing. But it's still my feeling of my engagement. So if me as a leader, if I'm thinking as a leader, I want this coaching intervention to support engagement, well, then I sort of have to trust my people and what they say. And if they say I'm more engaged, okay, check it off the list.
So can I intrude here as a coaching word?
Please.
Well, because here's the thing. Everybody I talk to, like when we are talking about any type of large scale engagement, we always show ROI, even though it's, again, some clients are like, we need to know exactly. But wouldn't you say, isn't employee engagement data, that's not quantitative?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So then I don't see how that's qualitative.
It is transferring a feeling to certain outcomes. This is a perfect example of why this conversation gets hairy. Because an employee's experience in an organization, we're transferring an embodied experience of me working at this company into numbers. And you can do a really good job of that. And still, there is going to be a subjective element to it.
Oh, yeah, of course. There's a subjective element to everything in the employee life cycle. Hiring, promoting, everything. Even marketing is subjective. Business development, subjective. There's only so much you can tie directly to, yeah, you can have processes, but everything can't be attributed to an exact activity. How do we measure this? So, I would love to hear more about ROE. For our clients, it's things like, we want people to be less stressed. We want people to be able to grow into their executive role. And then I think if you want them to grow into their executive role, what does that mean? And then what does that mean? And it always comes back to trust, psychological safety, connection, to get coaching, to get the most out of your team. That really is the top measure. So what do you say to that? Because we tried to narrow this down to dashboards, which is really hard. Even your leader isn't a dashboard. Like, again, if you want the leader to grow, you're taking the stairs, not the elevator kind of thing, right?
And that's what organizations look like too. They're not going to make this crazy leap necessarily. This is why I think it's important. So how do we measure the impact of coaching? Well, define impacts. Do you mean, is your company going to make more money? Are you going to be happier? Are you going to have less turnout? The math and the research is trying to answer the question for the CEO who wants to say, is this a program that we should keep doing? In conjunction with the CFO saying, we have the money to do it or not, or we want to put that money somewhere else. In order to really measure it, what I think is helpful, and this gets to the ROE piece, what problem are we trying to solve? Is our problem that we have low retention and we're going to use coaching to try and help retention? Well, then there's lots of things that coaching can help to help that specific problem. And then when you look at the problem, you say, all right, what would be the return we're looking on? We're going to invest $100,000 in a full-blown coaching program. We want to make sure that we get a 50% return, a 400% return. Okay, well, then you have to figure that out. All of this to say, LaTonya, I don't have the X times Y equals Z ROI. We are trying to do that. And side note, ICF is like working on what I call the TurboTax tool. It's like an ROI tool that you can plug in some numbers and get an estimated ROI based on lots and lots and lots of research that's been done about coaching. But I think the best case scenario is we're measuring how much money we put in against how much money we would lose if we did nothing. And then measuring that ROE, the return on expectation, and also return on experience. If I come to you and I say, hey, LaTonya, I want you to coach this team, and all of the team says, like what you just described, we've never had a leadership development course before. We've never had coaching before. We don't even know what this is. We're really scared of therapy. And at the end of your program, they come back and say, well, now I want to be a coach. Now I understand what the coaching mindset is. My marriage has changed. My outlook on global politics, which happens a lot.
That happens a lot.
What is that value? Is there a numerical value you would attribute to that would help the ROI calculus? I don't know if this has made it more or less confusing for you and your audience.
No, because it's like, the thing I would add is like, no, this is exactly what people are struggling with, folks. So definitely, if you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment about it, because there's like something I call like the magic pill effect. Like they expect a magic pill, and this gets us into like, there's so many compounding factors. Like, for example, there was a project that we recently did, and I brought a partner in, and we did sales coaching for this group. The other person was a BD expert. We did this sales coaching, and the team loved it. When we saw the changes in them and they saw the changes in themselves, but when it got to the other powers that be, they're like, we need this now. We need money today. And even if you would have sent your people to some sort of training, like a sales training, let's say networking and prospecting, it's still, you have to have the variables all have to line up. You send someone towards prospecting, but they're not confident, then that's not going to work. If they're not feeling right in selling that, if their identity is not aligned, they're not going to sell. I think these are the topics we have to discuss, because this is where people get stumped in the process.
It is, because it is this like network of variables. It's a web. They pull on one another. And so people sort of see it and say, oh, this isn't an easy, I put X amount of dollars into building my manufacturing plant, and then I can process X amount of widgets and sell them at this profit margin, and I make my money. Because those are tangible, very easy things to measure. Dollars, widgets, outcome. This is harder. And so because it's harder, people are like, can't be done. Well, it can, and it's nuanced for the organization. So know what problem you are trying to solve. And if it's multiple problems, great. Well, then that you just have more to measure and more to express. And we have to move beyond wanting to stick coaching and truly any leadership development, employee development opportunities in the same kind of ROI formula as we would factories and widgets. It's just not going to work. And I think that's one interesting thing that I've seen about other leadership development programs. Those are certainly evolving, and a lot of them now integrate coaching, which is tremendous. But how many times have you gone to a leadership course? You take the course, your organization spends $1,000, $1,500 on your attendance, and then what? What's the return on that? Is your leadership $1,000 better? Are you hoping it's 10 times that? And what did we want to solve with the leadership program in the first place?
As someone that regularly uses AI, at Change Coaches in my business, I would argue that, when you talk about the widgets and you talk about, that seems clean cut, but I would argue that humans are the better investment, because over time, they're going to be able to perform way more. Even when I talk about AI, I feel like it's plateauing for a lot of things that I use it for. Yeah, I could do an agent, but that's a very simple thing, which I think there's room for that too. But when we're talking about leaders, we're talking about org change, that big stuff, you need the human change in order to make it work. Even if you're doing an AI transformation, you still need, humans have to buy into this and they have to lead it in order. And I think that's a good question, because it's so let's say you invest in coaching for an AI transformation, and you're spending, I'm just making this number up, $500,000 to do thousands of employees. And what is it that they have to, the AI has to cut 30, 50 jobs to make it, so I love it. What problem are you trying to solve? And it might be multiple problems, right? And it's then you have 5 problems and you could say, we move the needle. It's going back to that sales team. They were in a way different place. And I think if they would have given them 6 months, it would have been you have to continue with this. And it's not a magic pill. So when we do have what we want to measure, so let's say the problem is the company needs to make more money, or the problem is the company needs to get through this change and it needs to be successful. Another problem I run into, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is sometimes when we're coaching in these transformations, orgs expect me to do surface coaching, not below the surface coaching. When I talk about identity, people have to see themselves in the change. That's what I mean by identity. I'm not talking about I identify as this. It's you have to see yourself in that. And so how would you respond to that? When you have these large scale coaching, people are just no, it has to just stick to the task. But if you do that, it's you have to coach the whole person and the whole problem. What are your thoughts around that?
Well, there's a couple of things here. One, we're going to have to do a whole separate podcast on my feelings on AI, because we don't have time. But all of it is we're still people on the planet for now, until we I saw something that at some point, we'll all be part computer. Okay, I won't be here for that. So I'm going to leave that to another generation to worry about. But for now, we're just humans with other humans. So yes, humans coaching humans. Hard to stay in a lane when it's just about the work. Okay, I don't know if you're listening and you said this, please tell LaTonya or comment, but I heard it somewhere. When you're an organizational or an internal coach, by the third session, you're just talking about life anyway.
Well, because everybody's a life coach. One of my friends always says that.
Everybody's a life coach, because that's why we're here. This is why being a skilled, trained coach is important. I mean, I have to props to ICF for having the competencies and the code of ethics. Keep that work professional, ethical, and this is my language, but in my mind, sacred, very special, honored. The work you're doing in coaching is a special thing. So whether you're talking about sales reports and how to beat your sales numbers, or you're talking about how to be the partner that you want to be in your relationship, if it's coaching, it's something really special that's happening in that relationship. So that happens whether you're in your fluorescently lit office or in your really chic coaching space in your attic. Organizational coaching is coaching because it involves a company. Oftentimes there is this third seat in the room that's not necessarily in the room, but we're working on behalf of the organization. That's why coaching is happening there. My perspective is that if an organization is investing in coaching, then they're investing in the whole person. And that should be intentional.
Right.
That we're not just going to coach LaTonya to like, no, LaTonya, we want to coach you to get your sales up. Like, no, LaTonya, we just want you to be the best LaTonya you can be.
So when you're talking about, that's why everybody's a life coach, because it's like there are things in people's lives that are getting in the way of them being able to run this change at work or grow into that C-suite job or grow into that manager job. So I want to stay on this. You're right. This could be a whole podcast, but I do want to talk about systemic change. And there's a lot of, and I'm sure for coaches that are listening, a lot of you experience this as well. Typically, when I'm brought in or my team is brought in to coach either an executive or a group of executives, it's about their role and how they're performing in that role and maybe a change, right? Maybe a change that they're going through and getting them up to the same level. A lot of times I find that the person has a lot of potential to, there's a lot of space for them to grow, but there's also some big systemic issues. And I especially find this with women in leadership positions, especially C-suite around there and below, immediately below. Do you think that sometimes orgs hire coaches to avoid dealing with, I know this is going to be a provocative question, to avoid dealing with systemic issues? Or what are your thoughts on that? Because like, even when we coach these individuals, and these are individuals that are they have their own budgets. It's like, if you put them in a room, their combined budgets could easily be, address a systemic problem.
Yeah.
Do you think orgs are avoiding that? Do you think they just don't see it? Do you think they think, okay, if we bring LaTonya or Katherine in, then at least this person can be good, and then that buys us? Or do you think they don't even think about it?
This is my provocative answer. I think that many organizations will do anything to keep the mirror from becoming in front of them. I think organizations are like, I have not thought this through, so just hang with me. I think they're sort of like barges, big old ships in a canal. They can't turn around. They can only go forward and backwards. And generally, they're trying to go forwards to get something on their back to somewhere else. They're moving slowly. There's a lot of like pressure from either side, and they're just trying to keep going. If something comes in the way and means you're either going to have to turn your barge around, you're going to have to dismantle it, you're going to have to fire the captain, you're going to actually need to totally redo the entire crew, they will do anything to not have to do those things, because that means they have to do the work. They have to stop what they're doing. Maybe their plans have to change. The timeline has to change. They have to hurt some people's feelings. They might, oh no, lose some money.
Opportunity cost. Yeah.
Opportunity cost. And so they are just trying to keep going down the canal. And they can do that. And a lot of organizations do. So they bring in a coach and say, hey, can you just like coach the sales team? We just need them to get better. But that's not what the problem is. The problem isn't the sales team. The problem is the barge is the wrong vessel. That is my sort of pessimistic view of organizations.
No, you're not wrong.
Because this is exactly what individuals do. This is what people do. They're going to stay as the moment they have to put the mirror in front of themselves and say, you know what, this is a me problem, not a world problem. I need to change. And these are the people who come to coaching. And so they're great because they want to do the change. But until the organization can say, let's step back. What is the actual problem? We should probably get a different boat. We should probably go out into the ocean instead of on this canal. We should be in a hot air balloon instead of in the water at all. Like, until they can step out and back to that word, intentionally see what is the problem and what intervention do we need, will they find long-term success? And so I think they can use coaching to come in and try to band-aid a problem, and that's not the best use of coaching. It could work, and those people who receive the coaching might have a great benefit and have a beautiful ripple effect. But if they're not actually discerning what is it that we're trying to do, and let's use the best approaches, because honestly, LaTonya, it might not even be coaching. I love coaching. It can do a lot. If you need mentorship for newly onboarded leaders because they come in, it's a high-paced job, they've only been managers, now they're a VP, and they're saying, what am I supposed to be doing here? Those people might not need coaches. They might need a mentor. and they might need a really strong CEO to tell them what to do. Awesome. Support it with some coaching, but understand what the function of coaching is and use it for that.
I think it's so interesting because there's an org that we work with, and we're actually going to be working with them more. But there was, I don't want to say too much.
I know. I'm not trying to get you out of a job here, LaTonya. I want companies to keep hiring you to be a solution.
I love everybody. I think even I could be critiqued, and I think so for some of you listening, and take this to your boss, use it for nuggets for your boss. Cause this could be a anonymous case study that could, and I do this for you, for real, cause these are issues that we're all struggling with. But this company, we discovered that all the issues that they had with burnout, with silos, the burnout and the silos were really big, and they were actually a problem for their customers. And so we had a direct line to show this. And so I had multiple conversations with them, and they're like, oh my gosh, you're so right. But we have to wait. We don't know. But they're going to bring us back for this project that they love, and we're doing it again. But they don't want. They're like, oh no, you're holding that mirror up. We can't do that right now. But we want to, but we can't. And it's like, okay, if you're opening up the space for it, that's one thing. But I do think a lot of it is panic and opportunity cost, and also someone's name being on the line.
Yeah.
Because what if they do all this stuff and then it doesn't work, or they think it doesn't work? And I'm like, it's going to work. Again, it's not a magic wand, but we do have to talk about AI. I'm sorry.
Hey, I'm here for it. What you got?
So this is the next. Well, it's funny because I went on a walk with a friend yesterday who's moving to another country, and it was really great to see her. So she might be listening. We were talking about, our change coaches assessment. We're in the middle of revamping it. And I was thinking about how to bring AI into that, just because everybody's talking about AI and coaching, and AI and coaching, it's folks, if you overreach, it's going to be a disaster. I just want to say that, that's how I feel. Cause as a very relational coach who trains people on relational coaching, I think what it can be used for is development planning. And so I've been thinking about the assessment and having some sort of AI tool where they can, if they take the assessment, no matter whether they took it a year or 3 years ago, they could use AI to help with their development planning. And I think that's good for coaching. So how are you seeing AI showing up in coaching? Because you work with a lot of orgs, large orgs. So where do they want to see it? And where is the disconnect? Because again, I think the disconnect for me is it's not going to do anything relational. Folks, trust me. The reason why I use AI so much, and I probably don't use it as much as you think. I think I use it more than the average person. And I feel like it's plateaued, but I do feel like it plateaus very quickly in relational stuff. And I was just testing it out as a coach to see how do I use it. But is there a disconnect in how organizations are seeing this could be used and how it can actually be used in coaching?
First of all, on the general topic of AI, I feel that this is, I guess I'm pro AI. I'm intrigued. I'm AI curious. I think it's cool. I still don't totally understand how it works, but I think it's awesome. The minds, the human minds that were able to develop this tectonic shift for technology are awesome. And it's been the history of time that has gotten us to this moment, obviously. So props to the people who invented the wheel, because that helped us get here. I think this falls under the same umbrella as the ROI conversation. Try and bring us back to the loop. When you first step into AI, and I'm generalizing based on my own experience and from what I've heard from organizations, slow to adopt. People were using AI a long time ago, but now it's a whole thing. And then ChatGPT comes out and the usage for ChatGPT skyrockets. People get it quickly. It's like Google, but better. They're getting access to information and to answers and learning things that they never had thought about. It's just an easier way to find information that you need. So the adoption continues to go on as the evolution of AI as a technology exponentially changes. So I agree with you that the usage of normal people like you and me are using it. And I feel similarly, where it's okay, I use it for this and I'm good. The ways that one could use AI are almost limitless because the technology continues to advance. But I'm not going to work that hard to learn all of it and then implement it into my workflow. Like I'm sort of comfy where I am. I have a colleague who is the guy at the leading edge. He's on the blogs, he gets the newsletters, he's invented robots, like he's on the far end of that adoption spectrum. So he is learning the new technology almost as quickly as it's evolving. Most organizations are not. And so if that's happening, if the technology continues to grow, what you're talking about is the change coaching. Like we haven't even gotten to a point where every organization is comfy. Like, this is how we use it. We have an understanding. Here's how we're going to implement AI. Why I think of it as the ROI problem is because we are still looking at AI solve problems of today and almost of yesterday, just as we're still trying to measure the value of coaching in the same way we measure ROI of factories and widgets. And you can't do that. I think for AI, we're there. People know there's AI platforms. You can have AI coaching, and I put it in quotations purposefully. You can use AI to help you run metrics, to help you understand ROI. Where is it going next? And so I think organizations are still trying to understand what it is, which is why they need change coaches, and know what the problem is. Where is our gap that we could intentionally use AI to fill? Just as coaching is a capacity builder, I believe AI is a capacity builder. But you have to look at the holistic environment to understand, where do we need that capacity to grow and where is it comfy? And so for you and me, in talking about this like plateau, and for me, obviously I know me best, but I needed my capacity to grow once I knew there was an option like AI. Once I learned about it, it was like, oh, my capacity can grow in these ways. It can help me synthesize notes. It can help me write emails for people who don't speak English as a native language. Help me get a better global perspective on the way I write for our international audience. It can help me do X, Y, and Z. That's where my capacity built. I'm now at a level where I'm saying my capacity feels good. The more I learn about AI, if I take the time or my organization teaches it to me, I can say, ooh, that might increase my capacity to do X, Y, Z, which hopefully will then enable me to do something else. So that's one thought, which was a long thought. The second thing I'm seeing in organizations is just like we've described with coaching. AI is not the magic pill. It's not for organizational effectiveness. It's not for revenue. It's not for employee development. It's not for anything. It can do a lot, particularly to coaching. An AI coach will never be a human coach. And if you want a human coach, then you have to go to a human.
Oh my gosh, this is the whole podcast, y'all. So hopefully you all stay till the end. Remember when we had the Internet of Things and people were getting refrigerators that they could talk to? And I'm like, I would rather just walk to my refrigerator and open it and get but you can use it for, it's like you can. Like I never got Alexa. I don't need it. I don't need Siri. I don't need it. I'd rather just write it, or like a spreadsheet, great invention. But some people prefer to just handwrite or do it on a piece of paper. Like it's all what you choose. And I love that question. Is this really opening capacity for you? I don't do agents. People are like, well, you're not even doing it. I'm sure your colleague does, because people are like, you're not really even doing this. Like even Claude Cowork, I'm like, this is too much. Like projects, I'm like, I don't need all that. I'm like, that just makes things more confusing to me. Like, and then people are like, you just got to figure it out. I'm like, no, my brain is for that. Like I'm fine. I'm good. Like, and so it's like, why do we have to throw all this stuff into like one tool? I'm like, I don't need all that. I'm good. I don't even play video games. And for those of you that do, great. But I don't need all that. I would rather go to the park or nothing is bad. Worse, better or worse. It's just, I love what you're saying. Capacity. Like I wanted to open up the capacity so I could live life and I can be out and I can connect with my people and my community, my family. That's what I want it for. I don't need it to like run an errand for me or to pay a bill for me. I Actually, that's something I do myself. And I find it very grounding.
That's something that ties to, we've got to be okay with how people want to use stuff.
But don't force it on us. That's the problem. It's like, don't say, oh, if you're not doing this, then you're a dinosaur.
That is also happening in organizations. I am also hearing that organizations are such AI junkies. They are so committed and so like dogmatic about AI being the lever that will make them super successful or beyond successful, whatever it is, that it's going to change the world, that they are enforcing AI and it is hurting. It is causing stress from my small network of people. So don't like quote me to the New York Times saying that AI is ruining the world. It's that AI is shoved so much. Those people are feeling like, oh, it's actually not increasing my capacity. It's making me more stressed. You're putting more pressure on me to use this tool, but you're not actually trying to free me up so that I can like go to the team luncheon. You're freeing me up so I can do more work. That's a problem.
It's a thing. So you should be quoted to the New York Times because there are people that I know that do AI consulting, AI change consulting. And like, there are companies that they actually have quotas and you have to be in there a certain amount of time. And I'm like, again, it's like goes back to relationships and identity and like someone like your colleague might see themselves as, a cutting edge AI junkie, but other people may not. And like, so does that mean they're not good? This is a whole nother conversation. And then what about the data set? Like there's so much uncertainty. It's not even showing that it's paying back. Like it's expensive. It's like even me, like I don't even use it a ton, but sometimes I've hit my limits. Like if I have it do like a routine spreadsheet or budget, or is this even going to be available? Like I just think we're making a lot of promises. But anyways, for those of you, whether you hate it or love it, I think what me and Katherine are saying as coaches is like, just know what it is. Like, that's why I've used it so much. Cause I'm like, if this is going to threaten me, like, then I need to know. And I'm like, it's not a threat at all. But I do think that there's ways that we can be change agents if we know it and we know how to talk to clients and what's actually working. And I love what you're saying. What are we trying to solve with AI? It's got to be one thing at a time.
One thing at a time. I'm quoting somebody else who I can't remember from some amazing conferences that I've been to, but we scale what we value. If your organization values X, and if the investment is in scaling that, AI might be a component to help you scale that. But just know it and be transparent about it. We need to scale sales. So we're going to do everything we can. We're going to use AI and coaching and whatever else to scale our sales because we value making money. Okay, great. Godspeed. But so I feel like the overarching theme is know what your problem is, know what you're trying to solve for. And in terms of coaching, in terms of any kind of initiative that you're putting in an organization or in your own life, where are you trying to grow your capacity? It might not look like evolving technology. I want to grow my capacity and actually getting off screens. So I don't want to get the new iPhone. I don't want iWatch. I don't want Alexa. I don't want another lady in my house. There's plenty. I just we actually did when my husband and I first moved in together, and we had an Alexa, and her voice was around. I was like, lady, get out of here. I don't like that you don't have to say please and thank you to her. I think it's not good manners. It's a whole thing. But the other piece I want to remind your listeners too, I was just at a technology conference, and the only technology that was discussed was AI. Reminder, technology does not equal AI. AI is technology, but the abacus was technology. Moving our bodies in a new way is technology. It's the application of new information. Where else could you be getting new information? And I think the best information we can receive, I think I feel this way. It sounds nice. The best information we can receive is humans to humans. Human to human. This conversation with you, LaTonya, is more fulfilling to me than any search I can do on AI.
Well, and I think honestly, you saying that, that's where the world is going. I'm seeing this everywhere where concerts, sports, like all these things are record levels. I mean, we saw the Knicks, and people they want to get out and be together. And like I went out and watched some of the World Cup games, like Mexico, because we were really into that. And, they didn't make it, but it's like seeing people, like, not just watching it on YouTube in your house, and it's just every 5 years we have an evolution. And I think we're on the brink of that right now. And it's like, I think people are starting to realize, I actually kind of like people again. But, COVID, we were scared of people. And now we're like, I'm just so lonely.
For sure. And that's a huge part we didn't even talk about. I think we're still all recovering from that global trauma. But the use of technology, just like we're using technology, our computers, the internet, all these great things to connect with one another. And that's what I love about technology, is that it can be a capacity builder. It's an enabler for things. And so you just have to know where you want that capacity to grow.
We could be here all day. And I know we have to, but we both have to end because we got started a little late. I won't get into that story. I want to do this from both sides. So what should orgs look for when they're hiring a coaching partner? How should coaches position themselves to what are orgs looking for?
Great question. I'd say the first sort of job of the organization is exactly what we've been telling them for the last hour, is like, what are your goals and priorities? What is it? What problems do you have? Also, coaches can help you discern those. So if you're struggling if you really want to dig deep under the surface, below the surface, understand what's going on in your organization, coaches can help do that exploratory discovery work. I would say recognize the purpose of coaching, understand what kind of intervention you're actually using. What does coaching do? What does it not do? And is that the best way to solve your problem? Then certainly looking at coach caliber. We're an unregulated profession. We do have a couple of institutions that provide credentials, of course, ICF being the biggest and most known worldwide, although there are others. But I'd say look at organizations need to understand the coaching approach that's coming in. And so that caliber of coach that you're bringing in based on credentials and education. Understanding that coaching is a thought partnership. So looking at whoever you're partnering with and saying, this is going to be, at ICF, we call coaching, it's a thought partnership. So this isn't co-design. Exactly. This is collaborative work. Yes, the coach will be facilitating whatever kind of coach engagement it is, but the organization has to take an active role. So I would say to the organization, are you ready? Is that what you want? What problems do you actually have? And are you ready to also embody some curiosity as the organization? Be willing to be a touch vulnerable, be a little bit open for the greater good. Like, we're going to make you more money. We're going to make your people happier. Like, it's all good. But there is a level of trust that goes into that co-creation of whatever outcome it is. And then to that end, kind of interestingly, we're asking organizations to sort of be more coach-like in their selection of a coach. For the coaches, get down to business. You've got to know your audience, know that it's going to be about money. You've got to show ROI, you got to show what kind of impact you make and what that process is going to look like. So how you can start with some kind of intake, whether that's with the organization itself or the individual, and then move along the process and how that work stays sustained over time. That impact is sustained over time.
So what would you say to me saying that most coaches believe that companies want to only work with big firms? Because they're like, they only want to work with BetterUp.
That is not true. BetterUp, Ezra, coaching.com, whatever. Coaching, if it's true coaching, is incredible. And by true coaching, I mean following core competencies, following code of ethics, not random person saying they're a coach because like they learned how to eat well for their own body, for example. When organizations are thinking about coaching or looking for an RFP, or you hear, or it's a cold call, you go in, you know this organization, it's, the headquarters are in your town. First of all, make sure that you're doing the education about coaching, because that's the first thing. If an organization says they want coaching, I don't know, 70% of them probably don't know what coaching is. So they think they know what they're asking for, but they don't. Be clear about what coaching is, be clear about what you can offer and how to solve their problems that they have articulated. Also, people often think that organizations have a ton of money. False. They may have money. They may not allocate it to things like coaching. It's great when organizations can pay for a huge package like BetterUp. Incredible. I would rather more people get coaching is the moral of the story. So if that's the way that the organization can scale coaching for their employees, fantastic. And it's expensive. What individual coaches and smaller coach organizations have as an advantage is, first of all, flexibility. You're not working within a one product design. You're not working in the canal. You can kind of shift for what the organization needs. And a price point. You know, of course, we want you to make a living, but you can be flexible. You can work with organizations on doing pilot programs. I think there's an emphasis on flexibility when there's a smaller organization or a solopreneur pursuing this coaching work with companies. And get rid of the myth that big companies only hire big firms because of the money or because of the whatever back end they have. It's just not true.
Thank you so much, Katherine. This was amazing, folks. And the only thing I would add to that is that I often say, if you hire Accenture, you're not going to get change coaches level of attention. That's what I tell them. You're right. We don't have a framework. It's like, I mean, we have frameworks, but it's not one framework that, we hire 25-year-olds to implement. It's going to be depth. No, nothing against 25-year-olds. I love y'all. But I just think, again, it's like the wisdom that you get when you hire smaller companies is unmatched. Even me as change coaches, like we love smaller companies because it's just, you get so much more out of it. So I know. So folks, thank you so much for staying till the end. And I'm going to try to have Katherine back at some point and we'll talk about AI and we'll definitely see you next time.